Professor Ederson D.T. Tapia, Dean of the College of Governance and Public Policy, fellow faculty members from the same college, fellow faculty members from the other departments, students from the graduate school and undergraduate programs, students from the other universities, guests from other universities, welcome to this morning's special university convocation. We have been celebrating the 114th anniversary of the Civil Service Commission, and it is supposed to be a month-long celebration. For the past few days, we have been celebrating the same with so much merriment, with so much singing, dancing, and athletic competition. This morning, as a sponsoring college, we have decided to embark on something consistent with the reputation of CGPP as the intellectual spark plug of the university. And this morning, we shall, as I mentioned a while ago, embark on an intellectual journey towards the magnificent world of international relations and foreign policy, for which we shall forever be thankful to our renowned guest speaker, Professor Jose David Lapuz. To tell us more about this, I shall call on Dean Ederson D.T. Tapia as he delivers the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Professor Maravilla. I did not prepare a formal speech for this morning, and so perhaps let me begin by acknowledging the presence of the people who are here today, and let me begin by please raise your hands or call attention to yourselves when I mention the group where you belong. Let me begin with our students from the Masters in Public Administration program. Yan. Palakpakan naman natin ang ating mga sarili. Our students from the BA Political Science program. Okay, good. Faculty members from the Department of Social Sciences. Thank you very much for coming. Students from ano pa bang colleges? Our students from the executive program. Our students from, our faculty members from the College of Governance and Public Policy, of course. And we have guests from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Where are you? Welcome to the University of Makati. I guess if I fail to mention the group you belong, please forgive me. And let me just proceed with what has been tasked of me. I think the title of our talk for this morning says it all. The governance, administration, direction, public ordering, and decision-making of the foreign affairs and relations of the Philippines, what's right, what's wrong in the execution of our foreign policy, national interests versus international responsibilities. Can individuals change the world? If you've heard Professor Lapuz speak in the past, you will make no mistake that this is really vintage Jose David Lapuz. And so we cannot thank the professor enough for his gracious acceptance of our invitation for him to speak before us. Let me just tell the younger generations of today, to which I think I still belong. We belong, according to Professor Soreta, that we are very lucky and privileged, including Professor Lapuz daw, very lucky and privileged to be hearing our guest speaker for today. Let me just say with pride that if you hear the same talk in a forum outside of the University of Makati, you'd be charged a very hefty admission price. But here, Professor Lapuz is just all too willing to share his knowledge and expertise with us here in the university pro bono. In other words, puro abono. So, we cannot thank Professor Lapuz enough. At any rate, as correctly pointed out by Professor Maravilla, we are actually celebrating Civil Service Month for the whole month of September. And I guess the talk for today cuts across two important sectors in Philippine society, and that's Philippine foreign relations and the civil service. And I guess what Professor Lapuz will talk to us about today, is the nexus that joins the issue of governance as well as foreign policy and foreign relations. So, without any further ado, I'd like to thank all of you again for coming, and please partake of this session, savor it, record it, have your pictures taken with our speaker later on, for I'm sure this is an opportunity that comes only once or maybe twice in a lifetime. Thank you very much and good morning.
Tapia, thank you very much. To introduce our guest speaker is the College Secretary of the College of Governance and Public Policy, Professor Stanley Fernandez.
Magandang umaga po. Hindi po ito ang unang pagkakataon na imbitahan natin ang ating panahuing pandangal. Sometime in February po, inimbitahan po natin ang ating speaker para magsalita ng mga importanteng bagay at konsepto sa public administration. Napakahirap po mag-download ng kanyang tagumpay over the internet. Inabot po ako ng alas 7 ng umaga para gawin ang buod at na-realize ko 7:30 kailangan ko nang pumasok. So kami po lahat sa College of Governance and Public Policy ay walang tulog. Ngayon, hayaan niyo po akong isalin sa wikang Ingles ang buod ng tagumpay ng ating panauwing pagtangal. Our speaker is one of the 45 member commissioners of the UNESCO National Commission of the Philippines on the Committee on Social and Human Sciences. He is a member of the UNESCO Advisory Committee on Human Rights and Poverty based in Paris. He also teaches in International Relations and Political Science at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Our speaker finished his bachelor's degree at the University of the Philippines and his postgraduate studies in International Politics and Foreign Policy at the University of Glasgow, Scotland. He started his teaching in the University of Santo Tomas in 1970. So ito pong speaker natin ay naging professor pa ng mga professor ko, na kung saan ang professor ko ay naging professor nyo ngayon sa University of Makati. So lahat po kami ay merong dugong UST. UST po, tandaan nyo, University of Santo Tomas. And our lecturer attended and read papers before the annual conference of the Political Studies Association of the United Kingdom, the American Political Science Association in Washington, D.C., and the International Studies Association of New York. He lectured in the following schools: Eastern Washington University, Harvard, East Carolina University, UCLA, and the University of London, LSE, Glasgow University, and Oxford University. He has also lectured at the Leningrad State University, now St. Petersburg Russian Federation, and then USSR Institute of Oriental Studies, Moscow. He also delivered formal lectures at the Humboldt Universität zu Berlin, University of Berlin, in Berlin, Germany. And in 1999, our speaker was first appointed as the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, Commissioner to the Committee on Social and Human Sciences in 2002. He was reappointed for a further 3-year term. In March 2009, President Arroyo appointed our speaker consultant. The professional specialization of our speaker lies in international relations, global politics, comparative foreign policy, moral and humanitarian issues in international affairs, and changing nature of world politics. In November 2009, our speaker was appointed by President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo as Commissioner, Board Member of the National Historical Institute, which promotes Philippine history and cultural heritage through research, dissemination, conservation, site management, and heraldry works. Our speaker was participant in the 2010 Preparatory Committee of the Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference held in February 2009 at the New World Hotel in Makati, Manila. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all rise and welcome our speaker today, Professor Jose David Lapuz.
You know, I will talk on my specialty, which is international relations, foreign policy, because I do not talk on a topic about which I know nothing. I prefer to talk on those topics that I specialize in, and from the very beginning, I have always been identified with the study of foreign relations. Since 1968 in the Lyceum of the Philippines. You may not know it, but I have taught political science to your favorite senator, Ping Lacson, who was a student in Lyceum, AB, but he did not finish that because he became a scholar at the PMA. So he left Lyceum to pursue his course on military tactics at the Philippine Military Academy. But I cannot believe a senator now was once upon my student. And when he saw me in one party of Plus Opre, he said, Professor Lapuz, kilala kita, ikaw yung terror namin sa Lyceum. Sabi ko, baliktad, because I have grown mellow through the years, whereas Ping Lacson has growled as a tiger since then. So you know how time changes complexions and personalities. I have taught a number of senators, including a senator who even voted for the bases, whereas all my lectures in UST were lectures against the bases. I'm referring to Senator Jose Lina, who was my student in economics under Rizal, but I was teaching Rizal. I thought I have delivered so many lectures on the basis that he will be against the basis. But in 1991, I was a presenter. I was invited by Senator Salonga and Shihani and the rest to deliver my presentation against the basis. And, you know, I am not bragging about I consumed more than 10 minutes. Then no less than Senator Shihani said, Professor Lapuz, your time is up. And I have to respect that, lest they punish me with contempt of court. And the voting was equal, 12-12. President Aquino was expecting something around 16 so that the bases will be retained. But that was the glorious history of the Senate. That was the golden hour when you heard the most brilliant minds in the Philippine Senate. We won 12-12 because Salonga broke the tie and voted against the bases, so 13 against 12. In case you doubt what I'm saying, you should go to the congressional record, September 7, September 8, 1991. They even published my presentation. How can I forget it? It ended with the burning words, because there was a lady, Shihani, lady and gentlemen of the Senate, assume the part of courage and denounce this iniquitous agreement, which is the military bases, which represents a negation of our sovereignty and of our independence. Those were my closing words. They were rather eloquent words, because I am told since then, eloquent words were no longer heard in the Senate. All you have to do now is to listen to our Senate now. Whatever happened to eloquence? Whatever happened to eloquentia? Where are the rectos? Where are the laurels? Where are the prebicias, the eloquent speakers? None. As a matter of fact, it has disappeared. Well, I'm telling you, I have known long ago that in the Senate and in the Congress now, the eagles have gone. There are no more eagles, and the vultures have taken over. The days of the laurel, of the rectos are gone. After the voting, because we won by one vote, I rushed to Senator Tanyada. I mean the senator, but it was his son who was a member of the Senate. Senator Tanyada was already retiring, and he had this for the ears, and I whispered to his ears, Don Lorenzo El Magnifico, I called him. We have won. Your dream, Recto's dream, has become a reality. And we embrace father to the son, or like brothers, like two eagles, you know. You don't see, you don't really see so many eagles. You see an eagle, one or two, but you do not see so many of them. They don't fly. You don't speak of a school of eagles, do you? You speak of a school of birds. Eagles, they fly alone. So that when they gather, we call them, the plural for eagle is a convocation of eagles. That's the grammar. When you say plural eagles, you say convocation of eagles. And that was the Senate. It was a convocation of eagles. But back to my topic, I did not really stray from it, because then it was foreign policy, now it is foreign policy. You know, the whole trouble with foreign policy is, they tell me, Professor Lapuz, you handle it in such a way that it becomes foreign to us. It is so foreign to us. It is known to you, but it is all foreign to us. And I correct my students. You do not mean that. You mean it is foreign policy because the policy is dictated to us by a foreign power. We really do not have any foreign policy separate from United States foreign policy. But just the same, our foreign policy, as I analyze it, and as Apolinario Mabini had said it, is at the nucleus. It is at the heart of our democratic principles. Of course, the foreign policy itself is enshrined. It is written in our fundamental law, and it reflects our particular understanding of the globe at a particular time. In 1946, the foreign policy of Rojas was to follow in the wake of America, to follow in the backwash of America. And Rojas would declare, America the beautiful, America the bountiful. After him, of course, was Quirino, and Quirino was no different. He also reflected American foreign policy. Especially, we needed aid and money from the USA. And then followed by Magsaysay. Magsaysay, of course, was a great guy. And we danced the mambo to the tune of Mambo, Mambo, Magsaysay, Mabu, Mabu, Mabuhay. Ang demokrasya'y patay kung wala si Magsaysay. Because Magsaysay carried the body, the corpse of Moises Padilla, who was killed by the hooks, and said, I carry the body of democracy. That is why Magsaysay is identified with democracy, not Corazon Aquino. It is Magsaysay. In our history, Magsaysay, because of his opposition to the hook and the communist movement, and because he rather succeeded in partially making it weak, we owe that to Magsaysay. Now, but there is no doubt that because we are Filipinos, we are expected to defend our interests. And, in fact, that is the meaning of our DFA, to protect our interests. But we can only protect it verbally, orally, because we do not have the power. Take the case of China. Each time they are interviewed, they say, we will die to our last blood in defense of this place. But those are so much words when you're surrounded by the naval power of China. And that is why it brought us closer to America, because America has a naval power that can contest the naval power of China. Did you notice every time an American submarine will dock in our pier, Filipinos are celebrating in the mall, Ali Mall, the World Ali Mall, because it would dock there. And sometimes the president is there inside those submarines, jumping up and down for joy, because the submarines are here and we are protected, forgetting that the Constitution prohibits that kind of thing. Have we not declared in our policy, in our Constitution, that we are free from nuclear weapons, that we pursue an independent foreign policy, that we are dedicated to our territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence? Those are just words, 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 words. But the reality is the heart is very much for Uncle Sam, especially when the whisper goes around that the president will arrive, and that is to say, Obama. I was in the United States lecturing in the University of San Francisco and University of Hawaii when I read in the internet his arrival. This was the last week of April, and then he had this EDCA, the Enforced Defense Cooperation Agreement with. Of course, he did not sign that. It was only signed by the U.S. ambassador. That's a truth. And of course, he did not promise anything. In fact, he told us, in the case of China, you should follow diplomacy. I am not here to protect you against the Chinese. You follow the code of conduct agreed upon in the ASEAN. So you see, America is always there. And I do not blame the Filipinos, because many of their relatives are there. In fact, if today we had a consensus or we had a referendum, we are for statehood or not, do you know that was already done with Kabangbang, and statehood won? But even if Filipinos are that way, our national heroes are not. If we study our history, if we study Jose Rizal, Graciano Lopez de Jaina, Marcelo H. del Pilar, the Luna brothers, Antonio and Juan, and all those magnificent eagles, they were unquestionably for independencia absoluta y completa. Independence, absolute and complete. And the most lyrical, the most rhapsodic words about that was uttered by the greatest paraplegic in our history, the great Apolinario Mabini, who lectured to those who took the side of the USA there in his house in Nagtahan, which is now rebuilt in my campus, in PUP. Its natural home is PUP campus. It was there that the house of Mabini was rebuilt. That was its natural habitat and place. And what did Mabini tell them? The Arellano's, the Taveras, and those who sided with the USA. He pointed to them a professorial finger and said, "Procura la independencia de tu patria, porque tú solo puedes tener verdadero interés, como que su independencia constituye tu propia libertad, su engrandecimiento tu perfección y su dignificación tu propia gloria e inmortalidad." Those words decorate his La Revolución Filipina. In that La Revolución Filipina, those words are etched. And what did Mabini say for those who fought the teaching of Spanish? Because according to them, Spanish had nothing to do with our livelihood, although it helps you in watching Spanish soap opera. Is it not? Thanks for your knowledge of Spanish. You appreciate Spanish and Latin American soap opera. What did Mabini, what did he say? Strive, procura, strive for the independence of your country. Lakaran mo ang kasarinlan ng inyong bansa. Porque tú solo puedes tener verdadero interest. Ikaw lang ang may interest sa kanyang greatness. Because your dignification is also the dignification of your country. He called the Filipinas paraiso. El único paraiso. That was he said. The only paradise. I think we try to adhere to that when we say nationalism. But you see, one thing I like about our Constitution is that, inconsistent with our foreign policy, we have relinquished, we have disavowed war as an instrument of national policy. Mahina talaga sa style ang mga gumawa ng Constitution. They wrote, the Philippines renounces war. If I were there, I would have written it, the Philippines disavows war. That is more eloquent, as an instrument of national policy. And we have adopted, of course, the affirmed principles of international law. That makes us a very civilized country because we adopt, not all, but the generally accepted principles of international law as part of the law of the land. That makes us very civilized. I'm proud of that. That's why we thought of bringing the China case to the International Court, and also the Sabah to the International Court, but then our opponent would not want that. And in United Nations, if the other party does not agree, there is no jurisdiction of the court. But you see, the Philippines, like any great nation, has gone through an evolution. We had evolved, we had developed, we had been transformed as a great nation. For we are a great people. For how could we have produced Jose Rizal, Claro M. Recto, Apolinario Mabini, Antonio Luna? Those names that are not familiar to you because they are not the names you will vote for in the Senate. For example, if Rizal and Mabini run for the Senate, you will continue to vote for Grace Po, Fernando Po, Susan Roses, Carmen Rosales, Rosa del Rosario. I am sure of it. Poor Rizal, he would not even land within the 12. Even within the 12. Jose Rizal himself would not win. And you know what? When I mention these great men, Rizal, Recto del Pilar, I feel sad. I feel sad. Because I know they are dead. They are dead as a doornail. Rizal, Recto, Quezon, Osmeña, del Pilar, Aguinaldo, Mabini, Juan Luna, Antonio Luna, Graciano Lopez de Jaina. They are all dead. And you know what? I am myself not feeling well. I am myself. Sometimes I want to count myself to run and call it Partido Filipinas. And my slogan will be Filipinas para los Filipinos. That is not so bad. The Philippines is for the Filipinos. I'm sure I'll be accused of extreme nationalism. What? Filipinas? Para sa mga Filipino? What are you talking about? I think it is common sense. Because if the Philippines is not for the Filipinos, for whom is it? Is it for the Americans? Or is it for the Koreanos? Ang dami ng Koreano ngayon. Punong-puno na sa Pampanga ng Koreano. Ay, Pampanga, my province. The last time I was there, I was asking for my favorite rellenong sugpo. In one famous restaurant, Di na mo na akong tidtad o relyenong this and that. Hindi hinatid sa akin, kimchi. Bakit naging kimchi? Sabi ko, hintay ka muna. Pampanga ba ito? Yes, sir. Ba't di niyo ako bigyan tidtad or yung kamaro, yung ating, sir, Koreano na may-ari ng restaurant. Kaya, kimchi. The Koreans have taken over in Pampanga and provinces in the north because they land in the airport on the north. Doon sila dumarating. Ang daming Koreano. They are everywhere. Kaya nga ba itong taxing itong lason, lason itong taxing ito, na pinalit kasi matipid sa gasolina at saka ang gas yata LPG or what. Except lason yan. Nahinga mo yan, ang lungs mo humihina. Kaya tinatanong ko sa driver, eto ba, eto yung bagong energy car. Hindi, baba mo na lahat ng bintana. Baba mo lahat. Huwag ka na mag-aircon. Kasi laso niyang hinihinga kong yan. Bakit yan ang minamaneho? Wala ho ako mapili. A car that is stopped in other places, tabud, narito. Narito, as taxi. Yung mga taxing ganon is lason. In fact, taxi drivers, they die little by little by little. They don't know it, but they inhale carbon dioxide. And they don't know it because they don't know anything. They don't know it. I have to tell them, poisonous siyang gas, mabuti pa pag aircon, baba mo na lahat ng bintana. At least kaaway ng fresh wind. Okay, I have said we have evolved, and our foreign policy has also manifested this, an evolution. We are now, I like to believe in our policy, we have shown that we are more open-minded, we are not isolated, we are not thinking in a shell, we think as members of island, you know, pag sabi mong island, it's open. It's very liberal. Alam nyo, class, I look at every Filipino as my pupil. I'm sorry. So, I address them always as class. In fact, sabi sa akin ni Father Rolando de la Rosa, sa tagal mo sa UST, which is 38 years, which is 9.25% of the 400 years of UST, totoo. You don't know your math, huh? 9.25% of 400 years, yun ang tanda ng UST, is the number of years I devoted to UST. 38 years. Kaya binigyan ako dyan kung ano-anong mga awards, ano? But you know, I grow old. I try not to grow old, but it is an organic process. There is nothing I can... Of course, people tell me, Professor, hindi ka nagiging matanda-bata ka. Sabi ko, you're not biological. You are not organic. We all grow old. But you don't manifest it. That is because my ideas do not manifest it. I grow young because my brain is active and energetic. That is the secret. The secret of long life is an energized and very active brain. It's all here. It's all in the brain, believe me. So, we are now outward looking. We are no longer this isolated, etc. We now believe in our foreign policy in the regional as well as global security. I think we are a very effective member of ASEAN, which is regional. We were the first one to organize that. Mafilindo was the product of Diosdado Macapagal, who was the father of Gloria Macapagal, whom I had the honor of serving as foreign policy consultant on international politics until she stepped down, June 2010. I also resigned because I know Aquino will not prolong my term. So, I did what was the honorable thing. I resigned 2010. That is how close I was with the President, Gloria Arroyo, and her foreign policy manifested that kind of open-mindedness. And I used to tell her in our conversation in the music room, Madam President, ang magandang foreign policy ay isang bahay, maraming bintana, and all the fresh winds, they come and go. And we are buffeted by the fresh winds. Hindi ko sinabi, we are buffeted by 30 to 20 typhoons every year. Iba naman yun, ano ha? I said, we were buffeted by fresh breezes in all directions. Ngayon, ang foreign policy ngayon is sarado lahat ng bintana. Lahat ng bintana son tapiadas, ano? They are all closed except one window that looks into the open panorama of the United States of America. Yun ang nakikita natin. We are oblivious to Indonesia. We are oblivious to Malaysia. We are oblivious to our Asian neighbors. Pero yung ating bintana, lahat na sarado son tapiadas. Except one that which opens to the USA. Masaya tayo riyan. Lahat tayo, in our Western, in our culture, in everything. I like to believe even in our public administration, we are really sufficiently educated by Western public ad, which is not bad. Because public ad became very sophisticated under the Americans and under the British. There is only one word for public ad. One I will equate with public ad is efficiency. Yes, political science is probably political thought, political decision analysis, ganon. Pero when you say public ad, you mean efficiency. Of course, informed by the knowledge of political science. Public ad, although theoretical, is tested in the realm of practice. As the British will say, what will work out, what is work out. And in fact, in the light of public ad, ang suggestion ko, ang DFA, siguro ang DFA can be absorbed, magkaroon na tayo ng Department of Trade and Commerce. Anyway, wala naman talaga tayong foreign policy. You know, we are pompous, we think we are a nation and that we are heard in the councils on foreign relations. Hindi. We are not the USA. We are not even Amsterdam, no? So, taking the part of humility at saka to be economical. Kasi in other countries, it is represented by trade, kasama ang foreign relations doon. Kaya kita mo, most heads ng DFA are businessmen or people of trade or in commerce. Are they headed by brilliant people in the methodology of foreign relations? Of course not. And what is their primary business? To increase trade, to help in the trade, to take care of the overseas contract workers. That should really be the case because overseas contract workers, they are our heroes. They help us tremendously in our dollar reserve. So if I were president, which is in the realm of if and when, first, ang unang-unang decree ko, I will abolish the DFA. Masyadong, I wish I had a chart. Meron ako dito somewhere. Masyadong balloon ang chart nila. Imagine we have 3 undersecretaries, ano? Meron isang Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Bakit 3 ang undersecretary natin? Ginagaya natin ang mga USA, Great Britain, Russia. But those are real, they worry about foreign policy. In our case, do we worry about that? What foreign policy do we have? Usually what the USA will suggest to us or what ASEAN will suggest to us. Why do we need 3 undersecretaries? Tell me. First, dadami ang mabibigyan mo ng trabaho kasi mga political appointees lahat yan. So, Undersecretary for Migrants, workers, Undersecretary for Policy. I'd like to know what the Undersecretary of Foreign Affairs in the DFA is doing in the realm of policy formation. I am sure none. I am sure of it. Pompous lang ang title Undersecretary for Policy. If that were Great Britain or France or the USA, I know what they do. I know what they do. All you have to do is to go to their website. Pero itong mga ito, nag-o-overlap. At saka in-appoint yan Political appointees yan. Political appointees. So, we are not represented less if we have the Department of Trade and Commerce, kasama na dyan ang foreign relations natin. Tipid pa. Anyway, ano ba tinatrabaho ng consul doon? Di ba usually mga overseas contract workers din? Tama trabaho yon kasi we must take care of our overseas contract workers. No? Uuwi sila dahil sinampar sila ng amo nila or pinagtangkaan sila ng masama. And of course, that is the concern of our consul. They are dedicated workers. But I don't see that being connected to foreign relations at saka methodology of foreign policy. Masyadong mataas yun. Masyadong mataas yun. Ginagawa yun sa Inglaterra, sa Amerika, probably Japan, at saka other European countries. Sa atin, wala naman talaga. Di magtipid na ron. Isa yung proposal ko. Then pag ako naging senador, ang unang-una kong proposal, itong aking ibabandera, the civil service should be a separate branch of government. Ipropose ko yan. Kasi itong civil service natin ito, it should really be like the Supreme Court. It should be like an independent body. Hindi wala nang pakialam kahit sino. But no, you know very well the civil service is the milking cow ng mga political appointees. Puro political appointees yan. Of course, they ask for civil service examination, but kailangan mo ng political backer. So, why not make it a separate and independent branch of government, civil service? Bakit sa Inglaterra, kahit siya yung manalo, labor manalo, conservative ang manalo, hindi nababago ang civil service ng England? Hindi, yun ang yun. Well, of course, there is a secretary doon. Baka yun mabago, no? Pero mula doon, pababa na hindi mo mababago yan. It's an English tradition, no? Because they are there to serve us, to serve the people. It's just a thought. Kaya, piyado ko mananalo ako, ha? Sabi ko, first, pag ako nag-run, una kong gagawin, abolish ko ang DFA. Yan ang sasabihin ko. And then, isasama sa Department of Trade and Commerce. And then, ang civil service gawing third branch or fourth branch of government. Walang makialam dyan. Talagang purely merit. I will call it the aristocracy of merit. O nga pala, yun ang tatawag ko sa civil service, the aristocracy of merit. And I want to head it. Because if you call it aristocracy of merit, I cannot think of anyone better to handle it than a professor, than a simple professor of political science. Pero hindi, baka ibigay niya sa artista. Di ba, artista binibigay? Hindi ba yung ikakasal ngayon? May ikakasal ngayon. Bigla na lang nag-march into our horizon. He is now the commissioner on youth. You see? Pata sabi niya, sana makasal kami sa Feast of the Blessed Virgin Mary, December 8. Kaya lang yung simbahan namin sa Cubao, may gagawin December 8. Pinlano pa yata nilang itabi mo ng Virgin Mary, ikakasal mo kami, no? Hindi naman magawa yan because that is a Catholic dogma. December 8, the dogma of the Virgin Mary. Hindi mo pwedeng pakialaman yan. Then in-interview siya saan siya in-interview? Di sa Channel 10 or Channel 12 or these local stations. Ano sinabi niya? Hindi ba ko na ikakasal na kami ng mahal ko sa kaarawan ni Rizal, December 30. Sinabay naman kay Jose Rizal, no? Nung una, sinabay niya ang sarili niya sa Virgin Mary. Dahil tumutol ang Catholic Church, isabay naman natin sa birthday, sa martyrdom ni Jose Rizal. And you know what? Masusunod yan. Masusunod yan. Because this is a country of lollipops, no? Country of lollipops ito. Everyone carrying a lollipop. Walang tatanggi dyan dahil mga artista yan. So wala rin tayong magagawa. Baka mag-head din ng civil service ay isang artista. At least it will give glamour, no? Glamour. Now, ang foreign policy natin, in general, in principle, I will consider it consistent with our status as an independent republic. Pero words lang ito eh. Words. Kamukha ng, di ba sa Constitution nakasulat, wala nang basis unless in the form of a treaty and then approved by a referendum of the people. Ganon. Ganon kahirap gawin yon. Kasi that was the time na 1991, very fervent ang mga tao sa bases. Ano? Ngayon nawala na yan. Bigla na lang nagkaroon ng EDCA, which is really allowing Americans access to all our bases. Lugi pa nga tayo, walang rent. Nawala na yung rent. Dati may rent. Ngayon nawala na yung rent. Libre pa silang go from bases to bases to bases. Anyway, sabi nila, consistent naman with our policy. I don't think so. America has her own foreign policy to protect her interests as a superpower. Tayo naman, we have a foreign policy consistent with our status as a member of Southeast Asia. Hindi tayo tuta ng Amerikano. At least I know, mga heroes natin ay hindi. I think we should go back to the tradition of heroism and commitment of our great heroes. Now, is it a weak policy? No, I will call it at times ineffectual, pero at times effective and driven. No? We can be very brave if we want to in our foreign policy. Kapag sa Constitution says the Philippines declares as a policy freedom from nuclear weapons, that is exactly what it means. There should be no... Hindi natin alam anong laman ng mga submarines or ships that dock at our coasts, no? Because we cannot inspect. You try and go there and inspect and see what the Americans will do to you, no? So you cannot, we just take their word for it. But we should be able to know if our Constitution is being violated. So the Constitution is beautiful. Freedom from nuclear weapons. Ang ganda ng pananalita, ang ganda ng words and phrases. Words. All you do is words. First from him, now from you. Sabi nga sa My Fair Lady, no? Yung Broadway play. Pero in action, kulang tayo. Talaga naman puro words, but we are short in action. Ganun tayo. As a people. Now, kaya I am forced to go to the days of Apolinario Mabini. Because Mabini was the first Secretary of Foreign Affairs. If you go to the DFA, you will see the monument of Apolinario Mabini there. And it was Mabini who taught himself, studied in UST. Where else will he study except UST? Graduated brilliantly and then became the advisor, parang consultant ni Emilio Aguinaldo. You know mga consultants, they are the l'eminence grisée. They are the black eminence in a red cardinal. Ano? Sila yon. And Mabini was that. And Aguinaldo was listening to him up to a point when Mabini was captured by the middle class. Now, it was Mabini who wrote the decrees of Aguinaldo. Those brilliant decrees. He addressed the British, Mabini. Next time you deal with the government, you deal with this government. Tinuturo niya ang Pilipinas. Yeah. Noon naman nagkaroon ng Treaty of Paris, he sent the brilliant Felipe Agoncillo to fight the ratification of the Treaty of Paris. Mabini was that, paraplegic, pero he was full. Ano? Iba-iba si Mabini. He may be paraplegic from the shoulder down, but he was a colossus, a genius from the shoulder up. No? He was a giant of a man. Now, Mabini, we may say, as the first Secretary of Foreign Affairs, laid down some very noble principles for us. And this is remembered naman, even by the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Now and then, in his speeches, he makes quotations from Apolinario Mabini. I gave you a decalogue of Mabini, which is on striving for the independence. But you know, it was also Mabini who said something against dynasty, dynastic rule. Look what Mabini said in the 8th Decalogue. Thou shalt strive for a republic and never for a monarchy in thy country, for the latter monarchy exalts one, or several families and founds a dynasty. Sabi ni Mabini yan. So it is not a republic if in the Senate you only see a number of families, or in the lower house you only see a number of families. That is already founding a dynasty. And then they will say, we are against dynasty, but if you pass the bill, you would be lucky if you can get it passed through. It was Mabini who said that in the 8th. It is not a republic if it is ruled by several families and by a dynasty. The former makes a people noble, a republic, and worthy through reason, through liberty, through brilliant labor. Kasi minsan yung isang, halimbawa sa Senado, yung a group doon, nakikita rin sila during family dinner, sila rin magkakausap. And then, during the caucus ng Senate, sila rin magkakatabi. And they vote as one. Against one, we are 100 million, 100 milyones Filipinos. And then yung mga nakaupo lang doon, mga dynas. Sinong against that? Mabini. As early as his period, he opposed it as against a Republican rule. What have we done according to that? Now, naglalabanan sa Amerika ngayon about yung ginagawa ni Obama not consulting the Senate, no? Kahit sa Pilipinas, di ba, madalas patawag si Gloria Arroyo because the Senate is not consulted, minsan sa foreign policy. But do you know, they are right. You know, sa law, soon you will take up law, merong decision ang US Supreme Court noong 1936 in the matter of Curtis Wright. This is US versus Curtis Wright. When the Supreme Court ruled that the President has broad power to conduct foreign affairs, and the President is the sole organ of international relations. Hindi talaga kasama ang Kongreso. Nagulat ako because alam ko kasama ang Kongreso sa treaty making siguro. Treaty making. But in other respects, yung ginagawa natin ni Obama ngayon, the Republican Senate is not consulted. For two reasons. One, kalaban niya yan, at saka hindi naman boboto with it. Two, Obama was a professor of constitutional law at Harvard University. So alam na alam niya the state ng Supreme Court dito. The President is the sole organ of international relations. Not the Congress. Pinag-aralan ko yung ating Constitution, the 1978. Basta yung Constitution natin. It says, US muna, the US. Kinopya natin ang US Constitution, no? Kasi we are a nation ng nangongopya. Pipi tayo nangongopya. So, kinopya natin ang US Constitution. But kapag gagawa ng iba, mangopya na lang tayo. No? So, I am sure, dito sa ating Senado, magkakaroon silang amendment to the Constitution. Mag-iisip pa ba sila on the Constitution, on amendment, the art of... Hindi na. Punta na lang sila sa Google, no? Ilalabas na nila, then kopyahin na lang yon. Some words are... Kasi I cannot imagine this Congress to be the Congress to rewrite the Philippine Constitution. Kasi ang mga tao, when they elect members to the Senate, ang iniisip nila, ordinaryong senador, so they vote for a senator. But, the moment you tell the Filipino, you are electing members na magiging constitution makers, and they will amend the Constitution, and they will change. Iba ang pasok ng tao. Ibang trabaho yan. Hindi natin iaasa yan sa mga artista. No? Kaya noong 1935, minanalo bang artista? Sa bagay, ang gaganda ng mga artista noon, ha? Sina Elsa Oria, sina Norma Blancaflor, sina Mila del Sol, kilala niyo ba yan? Sina Fernando Po Senior, si Carlos Vander Tolosa, si Tessie Agana, si Linda Estrella. Kasi hindi niyo alam yan. Ang alam nyo lang, si Nora Honor. Alam nyo, yung si Nora Honor, Nora Honor na yan, wala pa tayong Quiapo. In fact, nauna yan sa Quiapo. Wala pang Quiapo, Nora Honor na narinig ko. Then, nagkaroon ng Quiapo, Nora Honor. Ngayon, mawawala na rin ng Quiapo dahil lumulubog na ang Quiapo, Nora Honor pa rin. That is how true and faithful we are to our movie stars. Now, totoo ito sinabi ng US Supreme Court. Up to now, this is not challenged. Remember, this was 1936. Today is 2014. Walang brilliant constitutional lawyer has ever thought of questioning U.S. versus Curtis Wright. It is as permanent as that. Pwedeng mabago yan, but up to now, it has not been changed. 1936, kung sa bagay pinanganak ako, mga 1946. So, 10 years later pa ito. Nauna sa akin ito, 10 years earlier. Hindi pa ako pinanganganak, meron na pala nito. Mamamatay na ako, ito pa rin. Curtis versus Wright. And it says, only the president is the sole organ of international relations. Pinag-aralan ko yung Constitution ng America, and it says, nasa ulo ko yan eh. Kasi nung professor ako nung nag-aaral ako sa UP, lahat minememorya ko na. Kasi English yung teacher ko. Matatala ako sa English niya. So, nagmemorya ako na nagmemorya. Sinasagot ko sa kanya, were learned texts. Kahit siya hindi niya maintindihan, sinasabi ko. How can you not understand that? Ma'am, when I got that from the textbook, verbatim et seriatim et literatim. That is how I studied English. I kept memorizing. And I kept seeing the movies of Deborah Carr. Kasi ang ganda ng artistang yan, ang ganda niya mag-English, ang ganda ng enunciation niya. So ang aking diction, as well as my grammar, nakuha ko rin sa sine. Kamukha na di Deborah Carr, etc. Now, let us go to our provision. It says, and I cannot be wrong, the President shall, with the consent and advice of 2/3 of all the Senate, have the power to make blah, 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 blah. So, the President, kamukha ni Obama, is duty-bound to hear the advice and consent. Now, if you know Obama, I don't need your advice. Professor ako ng constitutional law. Sa Harvard, editor pa siya ng Harvard Law Review. Brilliant si Obama, baka akala nyo. Walang magawa si McCain. Ano alam ni McCain? Walang alam si McCain as far as constitutional laws are concerned. Sabi ni McCain at saka the Republicans, dapat sugurin ng Russia. We should show them how powerful we are and we should recover ang Ukraine at saka Crimea. Paano ka susugot? First, nasa Baltic, nasa East at North Europe yan. Ang layo ng Amerika. At kahit mabomba mo ang Amerika, palagay natin analysis sa bomba, who will occupy America? Saan ka kukuha ng Amerikano to occupy the Russian mainland? French soldiers. Ano nangyari sa kanila? They were dying of the Russian winter. Mahirap kaaway ang the winter of Russia. I know I was there for 4 to 5 months. Yeah. Guest ako ng Soviet Russia noon. Hindi ng present Russia. It was a Sovietized. Talaga, ito ang luto, nagiging malutong. Pag ginalaw mo ito, mapuputol sa ginawa. Ano, ha? Kaya misuot kang gano'n. Ano? Nanood ako ng football ng Moscow versus Leningrad. No? Hindi ka makagano, no? Masakit at saka baka mabali ang leeg mo. Kasi maginaw eh. Maginaw. So, nakaganyan ako. So, hindi ko alam sinong nanalo, sinong natalo. Hindi ko talaga alam. Kasi hindi ako makagano. Masakit. Hindi ako makagano. Nakatingin ako ngayon. Nanigas akong nanonood. Sabi ko, who won? Were you not watching? Sabi ni Professor Benevolensky. Na? Maniwala kayo, Russia pangalan lamang eh. Benevolensky. Yulia Leftonova ng Leningrad, no? Nakaganyan ako. Actually, walang nanalo, 0-0. Di ba? Ang football pwedeng 0-0 hanggang matapos ang game. Kaya ang Amerikano ayaw ng game na yan eh. They're so impatient. Yan ang gusto-gusto ng mga Europeans. Kasi ang football is tatakbuhin mo, miles and miles of field. Ang tinatakbo nila, mabilis pa sila sa eroplano. Yun ang kanilang velocity, no? Whereas ang ating typical court, yung pinanonood yung NCAA, UAAP, mula rito lang yan, at saka hanggang doon yung court. Tsaka pakembot-kembot lang yung mga players nyo, di ba? Pa-cute. Tsaka kuha ng retrato, sino? Yung mga society matrons, yan. Mga ganito. Ganito kalaki yung stadium sa NCAA. Sa bagay, nag-champion dyan ng UST 4 times. Mula rito siguro hanggang doon. Ako rin, 3 hakbang ko lang yan. Ano yung pinagtatalunan sa basketball? Yung mga players. Di ba? Kaya nagbobola yan, nakatingin sa camera yan. Ganun yan. At saka mag-shoot yan, Nakatingin yan, Naka-close up. Naka-close up yung mukha niya. Basketball yan, kino-close up yung mukha. I-close up mo yung bola, tsaka kamay. Tsaka yung goal. Huwag naman yung mukha at mga hita. Kita-kita. Because yun ang appeal nila. Yun ang appeal ng audience. Gusto makita yung hita. Tsaka gusto makita pogi yung player. That is what they call. Ngayon, nagpunta ngayon sila sa Spain. Ganun pa rin. Talo pa rin. Di ba? Kaya lang, lilipad kami, patas katakot ng publicity. Daig na daig sila ni Martinez, yung Olympian. Alam mo, walang publicity yung batang yan. Nagsimula lang yan sa mall, mall ng Cubao, ng Mega Mall. Patapos nag-aral siya with her dedicated mother. Nagulat na lang ako sa Sochi ba yun? Na the next is a Filipino. Kinakabahan pa siya, ganyan. And what will you perform? To the tune of Romeo and Juliet. Nagulat ako, Romeo and Juliet. Something na hindi pinipansin sa Pilipinas. Anong Romeo and Juliet? Baka Romeo and Romeo. Pero hindi Romeo and Juliet. And then, nagsayaw na siya. To the applause ng European judges. And then, sa Pilipinas ito, mahiyain pa. Yung nanay niya, sumulat daw kay Aquino. And of course, she got no reply. Yung write the president, email the president, pero walang reply yan. You can write all the emails, walang reply. Kamukha rin ninyo, tawatanggap kayo ng email, di kayo sumasagot. No? Ang sagot sa akin, may kausap ako, napaka-importante. Hindi rito, sa UP. Hindi mo binuksan. Hindi ko binubuksan ng email. Ba't nag-email ka pa? No? Ba't nag-email ka? Ako, kahit hindi ko kilala, makita ko email, meron kagad ang reply, kahit 1 sentence lang. Thank you for your notice. Please keep on. I am glad you and I are wired in cyberspace, in the World Wide Web. Ganyan. Yun ang sagot ko. I'm glad we are wired in cyberspace, in the World Wide Web. Kaya napaka-extensive ng aking Facebook, ng aking YouTube. One of the most complex, the most encyclopedic, the most inclusive Facebook na yata. Among academics. Narito ba yung aking, kinumbida ko yung aking gig? Narito ba siya ngayon? Nariyan ka ba? Taas naman ang kamay. Julius, nariyan ka? Nahiya siguro. Meron ba o hindi nyo pinapasok? Sabi ko, pumunta ka. Raise your hand. Julius Robaror? Binigyan ko pa naman ng sulat. I am not sure if he read it, no? Kahit bigyan mo ng sulat. Okay. Yung Cortes versus right is an question. Now, sa Pilipinas, may pagkamalakas because it says, the President with the concurrence of 2/3 of all the members of the Senate. mukhang malakas ng konti yung with the concurrence than with the advice and consent. By the way, that opinion was written by the brilliant Justice George Sutherland. No wonder walang ko-question sa judge na yan. No? One of the most brilliant of the Federal Supreme Courts, that the resolution passed by Congress gave the President wide latitude in foreign affairs na tinawag niyang external sovereignty. Pero ngayon, iba na ngayon kasi because this is an open society, you cannot say it is the exclusive power of the President. Kasi papasok ang social media, hindi sila papayag. Hindi talaga, wala nang iba-ibang panahon ngayon. Kahit gawin mo secret, and you say, this is the exclusive power of the President, papasok at papasok ang media, social media. And in this age of open information, we insist on open treaties, openly arrived at. Kaya we are insisting on the Freedom of Information Act. Dapat ilabas yan. That is consistent with democracy, consistent with transparency. For that is how our government should be. Transparent, consistent. Ewan ko maipapasayan. Now, alam nyo, napansin nyo, ang Russia ngayon is the victim ng economic sanctions because Obama will not use military arms, pero Obama does not agree with Putin interpretation of NATO at saka yung ginagawa niya sa Ukraine at saka yung ginawa niya sa Crimea. And therefore, economic sanctions, diyan magaling si Obama because the West, pero affected din ang West. In fact, gumanti ng Russia, pinasara ng Russia lahat ng McDonald's sa Russia. Pinasarado niya. Gusto pa ng mga Russians ang McDonald's, no? Because the first time you taste McDonald's, you are really hooked, ano? Yung hamburger na yun. Now, by the way, yun ang favorite food natin, di ba? Hamburger. Kaya tayo mga hambugero rin in foreign policy. Hambugero, do you know why? Hambugero because the way we talk to China, hindi mo makukuha ang China sa ganong talk, I think. No, hindi papayag. I think, ang dami ko naging Chinese students sa UST. Paborito nilang UST, mga Chinese students. They don't go to UP, they go to UST. Meron silang style na there is an eloquence in their silence. Silent waters run deep. No? Tayo, puro buga ng buga tayo. We will do this, we will do that. And the next thing you know, nariyan na yung Russian ship. Binubuga na tayo ng bombang tubig, di ba? Binobomba tayo dyan ng tubig. And that is one thing I criticize because nung in-interview yung mga Filipinos ng Tribune o ng Herald, sinabi nila, sa Amerika ito, pinakita niya lang yung kamiseta niya, yung nadadala lang ng kamiseta ko, yun ang hinuhuli ko rito, sa reef na ito. Pero pag nakita kami ng Chinese, binobomba kami ng tubig. Masakit yan. Water bombs. Masakit yan. Saka malakas. So what do you do now? But we take our chances. They try to avoid the water bombs, but they go on. And then, tinanong sa kanya, noon, nangyayari ba sa inyo? Ito na. Noon wala nito sapagkat we had American bases. And the Americans protected us. In a way that is true. Naging mayabang ang China. Pero kahit wala na yung bases, there is still the RPUS Mutual Defense Treaty. And in any case, China should not be exercising, ang tawag natin dyan arrogance, no? Hambog yan the arrogance of power. They are doing it because they can. Sometimes you reach a level of power. I will do that because I can. Yun lang ang dahilan mo, you can do it, so you will do it. China is wrong there. Kasi ang disease and the fish na hawak niya sa kamiseta niya, saan niya kinuha yun? Sa the fish, the sea of God, that belongs to whole mankind. It doesn't belong to us. It doesn't belong to China. It belongs to us. inhabitants of the planet. Yet China establishes ownership on that. Siyempre nasusunod ang China dyan. Now, what is needed is, katulad sinabi ni Obama, and I agree, a delicate sense of what is fitting. That is to say, you know what Obama said noong April? The fact that you have the hammer does not mean you can use it or that you will use it against the opponent. Pero nakaamba, no? Ang martilyong nakaamba is more powerful than yung martilyong ginamit mo na. Di ba? Yung martilyong nakaamba, mas nakakatakot. Kasi yung martilyong ginamit na sa'yo, ganun lang pala ang lakas noon. Parang rifle yan ah. This is a powerful rifle. And then you shoot it. You use one bullet. It is no longer powerful. It is one bullet less. Power is best suggested. Power is best hinted than actually practiced. I think Obama is correct there in the case of the ISIS. Pinakita niya yung power ng Amerika in terms of the drone and in terms of the Air Force, but the American soldiers are not there. Pero it is a warning to ISIS. May I invite you to listen to the speech of Obama tomorrow, Wednesday, sa CNN. Paliliwanag niya what he's doing on the ISIS. I think all of us are agreed. We cannot agree on the ISIS na pinupugutan ng ulo ang hindi Muslim or pipilitin maging Muslim. At saka yung ating United Nations peacemakers, ako sang-ayon sa kanila, yung colonel hindi sinurrender ang arms. Kaya may kaso ngayon because he should have listened to the general. Mali yung general. The general, hindi niya alam ang ground reality. You know what it means makapture ka sa Middle East, wala ka ng armas? Todas ka na. Ganun ginagawa ng ISIS sa mga sumusukong sundalo, no? Pinakita naman sa CNN, sa Al Jazeera, sa BBC, sa Fox Television, kung paano patayin to. Talaga tama yung Filipino colonel, no, we will not give up our arms. That's a Filipino instinct. Tama yon. Mali yung general na, siguro nasa air-conditioned room yon, kumakain ng mani, o baka nasa motel pa nga yan, nagbibigay ng order, hindi niya alam ang ground reality. Sinong may alam ng ground reality? Yung colonel, yung mga Filipino nasa peacekeeping forces. Tama siya, I agree with that. Why should they surrender their arms? Yan ang kalokohan. Yan ang nangyari sa mga hukbalahap. Yung mga hukbalahap, ang condition ni MacArthur, surrender your firearms. Sinurrender nga. Nung sinurrender, nanalo na si MacArthur. Nanalo ang Amerikano. You know, sabihin mo sa Amerikano, surrender your arms. Sino nga anong mangyari sa'yo? The American will say, I have the right to bear arms. I cannot walk in that shadow, in that valley without my arms. Sa kanyang arms, parang kabayo yan. That is a freedom niya. It is in the Constitution, the freedom to bear arms ng mga Amerikano. Kaya kita mo hindi manalo-nalo yung nagsasay na mawala na yung arms. Pero may condition yun, ano? In order to train them to become part of the American militia. You have the freedom to bear arms as preparation for your membership in the national militia. Maraming may armas sa Amerika, they have no intention of being part of the national militia. Yun ang kanilang protection. Kaya, when the peacemakers were asked, Filipino, surrender your arms, the Filipino in him, the instinct in him said, no, we will not surrender. Doon nagalit yung general. Huh? If you ask me, tama yung Filipino using their instinct. Why should I say? In the Middle East, isusurrender mo yung arms mo? Marami na napugutang Filipino riyan. Ayaw nila maging Muslim, pinugutan. Iba yung ISIS. Susuko lang ang ISIS if you show them force. The legitimate use of force. Now, let me go to a related topic, which is, etong gusto ko sabihin, wala lang. Sana makuha nyo ito, napakuha ko ito sa website. Pwede bang i-project ito sa TV? Hindi na, no? Pwede? Po? i-project sa TV, hindi na, no? Oo, hindi na kaya, huli na. Pero makita nyo rito how complicated it is. Very impressive as far as organizational charts go. Pero do we need this ballooning, thickening, inflated organizational chart? Ang daming undersecretary. Merong Office of the Undersecretary for International Economic Relations. Ano yon? Inaasikaso yan ng Commerce and Trade, ano? Then, alam ko ito, Office of the Undersecretary for Migrant Workers. Talagang kailangan natin tulungan ng mga migrant workers natin. Nung ako'y nag-aral sa Inglaterra, Scotland, wala pang mga migrant workers kasi 1969 yan, 1968. Ang mga migrant workers became famous mga 1971, kaya 1970. I'm not kidding. Kaya nung ako'y nasa Glasgow, ako lang yung Filipino sa Glasgow, alam nyo ba? Except for the consul. The consul doon, who was not even a Filipino, kasi wala akong makitang Filipino sa Glasgow. Lungkot na lungkot ako. No? Naghahanap ako ng Filipino para masulsulan ko magluto siya ng adobo. Pero wala akong makita. Then I asked my professor, the brilliant W.J.M. Mackenzie. That's a legend sa English intellectual life. Yan ang aking advisor sa University of Glasgow. No, but if you go to the consul, there is a consul honorary. Pinakita lang sa akin retrato ng Luneta. Meron siyang retrato ng Luneta Park. Yan ang Luneta pa noong 1946. Sabi ko, ibang-iba na ngayon ng Luneta. Lalo na ngayon, may iba na ngayon kung ano pang gagawa pa sa Luneta. Magpapatayo pa yata ng mga residences. Ano ha? Mabuti naman. At least, pag nariyan si Jose Rizal at saka likod niya mga residences, ang ibig sabihin doon, Jose Rizal is for those who have no houses, give homes to the homeless. Yan ang labas niyan. Huwag na lang sa magal. Of course, si Jose Rizal parang ko na lang dyan. Yung pantinga, anong tawag sa pantinga? Toothpick, nakaganyan siya. Ha? Patay sa mga retrato dito, mga high-rise condominiums, high-rise residences. Binigyan daw ng permit ni Lim, binigyan ng permit ni Estrada. Ngayon, hindi na pwedeng ibahin yun. O, kamusta si Rizal? Ngayon, ito si Rizal. Well, bibigyan ko na lang bagong interpretation. Jose Rizal represented home for the homeless. Or, gagayahin ko yung Russia. Alam mo ginawa ng Russia sa Gagarin? Ginawa niyang mataas na mataas yung estatwa ni Gagarin. Talagang mataas na mataas si Gagarin, no? Talagang supersonic, ano doon? Mataas, titingala kang ganyan. Ganyan siya, overpowering and dominating Moscow. I think ganun dapat ang gawin kay Rizal. Pataasin na pataasin yung monumento yan. Pataasin na pataasin. Never mind the residences. After all, Jose Rizal really presides over this nation. Di siya yung pinakamataas doon. Sasabihin ko nga yan sa mga architects. Walang tumututol, ha? Walang tumututol. Yeah, walang tumututol. So, and then we have here, Office of the Undersecretary for Policy. Ano yon? Di ba, ang Secretary of Foreign Affairs, doon na siya sa Foreign Policy. Anong may Undersecretary pa for Policy? Ang gusto sabihin nito, walang gagawin yung Secretary of Foreign Affairs, i-assign niya rito, siya ikaw ang gumawa ng policy. Parang ganon. It's very impressive, but very pompous. Office of Ocean Concerns. Why should the ocean be our concern? Tama na yung Pasig River, no? Ang Pacific Ocean that will flourish with or without us. Alagaan mo na lang ang Pasig River, no? Do you know when you say of ocean concerns? Kasama dyan ang Australia, kasama dyan ang New Zealand, kasama na the whole Pacific Ocean, no? Pati na siguro Hawaii. Sabagay, maganda ang Hawaii. They should include it. And then you have this ocean affairs. Lahat ito are very impressive. Pero kung nagtitipid tayo and we cut down on expenses, pwedeng mawala ito. Because our problems on foreign policy cannot be this complex. Now, let me discuss with you, when I was with the President, matagal-tagal din ako ron, di ba? She stepped down 2010, ano ha? Yeah. I think this means 10 minutes for another breakfast. Ito ba ito? Tatapusin ko na lang ito. I'm in a position to talk authoritatively on that. Kasi akong ginawa niyang foreign policy advisor. Kung pinagdududahan niyo yan, pumunta kayo sa kanya, sa Veterans Hospital. And yeah, kung papapasukin kayo, and she will remember all of this. Modesty aside, she had a very comprehensive approach to foreign policy. Believe me, siyang gumagawa nito. Remember, Gloria was a summa cum laude. Remember, Gloria was professor at the University of the Philippines. Remember, Gloria studied at Georgetown School of Diplomacy. Maalam siya sa foreign policy. Yet, he would ask me on many things about foreign policy. Kaya ako'y na-flutter because this is no ordinary person talking to you. Pero ang kanyang positioning correct. Tapusin ko lang ito. The dynamics of relations, China, Japan, and the U.S. Ang ganda ng relation nun with China. Hindi kamukha ngayon. Ngayon, kahit pumunta dyan si Aquino o si Rojas, maswerte sila kung pakakainan sila kahit siopaw ng mga Chinese. Usually, the Chinese are so festive, ano? Laureate of 9, 10 dishes. Pero the last time, baka hindi ka bigyan yan, bigyan ka lang ng siopaw, siomay, at saka siguro, for dessert, hopyang hapon. No? Did you know mas masarap ang hopyang hapon kaysa hopyang Chinese? Second, and then we became aware of ASEAN even before the other presidents because ang Mafilindo and ASEAN are brothers. And they were the creation of Diosdado Macapagal. Fourth, the Islamic community were given attention, crucial to our country's search. And then, ang interregional organizations, such as A, B, C, D, E, became very influential. And then, ang environment, saka maritime territory. In fact, yun ang solution ko sa China. Alam nyo, bakit pa tayo nagmamadaling angkini ng mga reef and all those islands? Hindi natin ma-occupy. Tsaka mga bato-bato lang yan, ano ha? Bakit hindi tuksuhin ang China? Let us be together in maintaining the environmental integrity and the ecological concern of these islands. We work together as one. You and I, no? Marunong tayo makipagkaibigan sa Chinese. Ang daming mga mababait na Chinese na kilala ko, no ha? Daanin natin doon, yung ownership, sovereignty, put that at the backwater. Huwag kang magsisimula, akin to ha? Akin to, sa bagay niya ng mga Chinese, ako ito, ako. Ganyan yun eh, may istorya ganyan eh. Nag-usap na yung mga familia, sabi ng isa, ito akin, koha ko. Ito, koha ko. Koha. Ganyan magparte ang mga Chinese, ano ha? I will not go to the conclusion of my story dyan. Baka they are powerful people, yung mga tao ito. At isa lang akong abang guro. Ano ilalaban mo riyan, no ha? So, wag na muna yung sovereignty that can wait. Sovereignty is at the backwaters. And then, when we work together on the climate, ecology of these contested islands, we get to know one another very well. No? Hindi ba we eat the same food? Hindi ba? Yung kinakain ng Chinese, kinakain natin. Gustong-gusto natin ng Chinese cooking. If we nakakasundo tayo sa food, magkakasundo tayo sa maraming bagay. The sovereignty comes, hindi! We own this. We have to decide now. Yon ang superiority ni Mao Zedong. When si Mao Zedong pinuntahan ni na Nixon at saka ni Kissinger, they were insisting on ownership. Alam mo sabi ni Mao, it doesn't matter to me who owns this. No? After all, 100 years, 200 years, what is wrap up? Ano kaya wrap up ko rito? Lumpia siguro. No. In deference to the organizers, let me now say, ang foreign policy natin is really dynamic, ano? Very, very fluid. I cannot pin it down. except all I know is we are guided by several basic principles: territorial integrity, sovereignty, our honor, independence. Hindi dapat mawala dyan. No? At saka, I think we are correct as a nation. We want to be very competitive in a global setting. Competitive. In other words, ang ating problema, Filipino overseas should get the hippodrome of our concern. Alagaan natin yan kasi yan ang progress natin. And we love them. My father was the first Filipino migrant worker. My father was a U.S. Navy, no, Second World War, joined the Navy because he's a very good cook. They put him in the mess hall. He was a co-worker. He was an independent worker. Magluto ang father ko. So, na-discuss ko na sa inyo how we voted in the Senate. At saka, I am saying now, finally, what you can do in foreign affairs. A lot. Magsimula kayo by being interested in foreign affairs. You always watch BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, Fox Television, MSNBC, Russian television, Australian television. In your own sala. Nasa sala nyo yan. Ngayon, kung wala kayo ng cable, di puntahan nyo yung kapitbahay nyo. No, ha? Ha? Sa bagay, hindi naman CNN na panonoorin, ano? Pare-pare. Pero you have to, or internet. Sa bagay, bahal ang internet, di ba? Sa internet, makikita. Ganun ngayon ang mundo. We have to deal with that kind of reality.
Please, gentlemen, observe economy of time. You may now begin. We starting with Professor Andrew Mungkal.
My honor and pleasure to hear the words of wisdom of Professor Jose David Lapuz, ang profesor ng bayan, Rizalista de Vanguardia, Knights of Rizal. Did you know that I was a former student of Professor Lapuz? And did you know that my mother in Lyceum of the Philippines was his former student too? Okay. So let us give Professor Lapuz a big hand again. So, I will make my reaction short. I agree with Professor Lapuz and the Supreme Court versus Ann Curtis ba? Okay. That diplomatic power lies exclusively in the hands of the President of the Philippines. However, this power is shared between the two houses of Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Under Article 7 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, the President appoints ambassadors, minister, councilors, and consuls with the concurrence of the Commission on Appointments. 8 out of 10 of them are members of Congress. Also, the President makes treaties and international agreements with the concurrence of 3/4 of the members of Senate. However, there is now, according to Professor Lapuz, the world has changed. Nothing is permanent in this world except change. That the social media can now influence our policy makers. So, with that, thank you.
I am honored that you said you were once my student. Alam ko na, ikaw yung estudyante na sa isang examination booklet, napakahirap yata ng tanong ko. Sinulat mo, natandaan ko na, sabi mo, Professor Lapuz, your question is very tough. Only God knows it. And I don't know the answer, but God knows it. Sinagot ko sa kanyang booklet, in that case, God gets a grade of 1. In your case, you get a grade of 5. 5 naman siya. Sabi niya, only God knows it. Pero tama sinabi niya, it is shared. By the way, yung Curtis versus Wright. Or when you cite that, you say, in the matter of Curtis versus Wright. Or the, the USA, the USA versus, etc. Sinabi ito ni Justice Sutherland, sa external affairs, talagang the President of the US is the sole organ of international relations. Pero sa domestic, that means to say, kasama na yung Congress, etc., it may face overwhelming opposition because of the power of Congress. But the Supreme Court was talking of the external interpretation ng power ni Obama, halimbawa, no ha? Pero within the USA, that power is not accepted. Within the USA, sisingit pa rin si Senator McCain, sisingit pa rin mga senador, sisingit pa rin lahat ng opinion. Marami pang makikialam. But that is within the USA, which is domestic. So, Professor, tama yung sinabi mo. It is really shared because Congress holds the power, the money power. Paano kang gagawa ng embassy kung walang pera? Paano bibigyan ng defense yung embassy kung walang pera ang Congress to finance it? Ganun yan. So, walang differences doon. I'll make it short, para marami.
Yeah, Professor, in keeping with the time, first, thank you for that very eloquent speech on the role of Philippine foreign policy today in the 21st century. Although I'm interested on your view regarding the current debacle the Philippines is facing with China, if you were given a chance, this would be like a Miss Universe contest, Professor. If you ever had an opportunity to have the ear of President Pinoy, what would you suggest to him in order for us to get over our problem with the Shopao country? Sorry, the Chinese Republic. Thank you, sir.
In the first place, I quite agree. The Philippines presented a compendious, a voluminous presentation sa International Court of Justice where we summarized. Tandaan mo, we are a nation of lawyers. Hindi tayo maubusan ng brilliant legal opinions coming from UP, UST, even sa lahat-lahat, maraming brilliant lawyers. Na-impressed ako how impressive that parang brief yun pero makapal, presented to the International Court, pero walang sagot ang China except to say, binabaliwala ng China. Because, sabi ng China, why do you have to do that? The court has no jurisdiction. Talaga walang jurisdiction because China must agree that the case be presented to the International Court of Justice. China never agreed, kaya walang jurisdiction. Pero nanalo tayo sa UN, sa public opinion, sa humanity. Kasi nabasa yan, kakalat yan Sa internet, kakalat ang position natin. And brilliantly written by brilliant experts on the law. Tama-tama tayo ron. Kaya lang, we cannot win it that way. We have to win it. Ang gusto ko sabihin, however brilliant your paper is, it cannot cook rice. You have to cook the rice, no? Sabi nga ng mga Chinese wisdom, words cannot cook rice, ano? Problem pa rin yan. Problem pa rin yung southern, yung mga islands na yan. Lalo na, mayaman sa mineral, mayaman sa natural resources, mayaman sa isda. Alam mo, sabi ng Filipino in interview, we do not fish for fish. We just go there, and the fish, they swim to us. Tinataas lang nila yung kamiseta nilang gano'n. And the fish, hindi ko inimbento ito, lumabas ito sa New York newspaper. Binasa ko when I was there. I think baka nasa internet pa rin. Na gagano lang daw nila yung kamiseta nila, and the fish will naturally swim to it. Gagano nila, yun ang isda nila. For that, binobomba pa sila ng tubig. Hindi yung nagda-dynamite sila ro, hindi. O meron hindi. Basta gagano nila. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Talagang it is nature that owns it. And what the Filipinos are doing are very acts of nature. Now, what can I advise Pinoy, no? Not that he will listen to the advice. Not that I'm willing to give any advice. Because I do not give free advice naman, ano? But, ang masasabi ko, bakit ba tayo nagmamadali sa ownership, Presidente? Pwede naman natin ilagay sa backwater. Itabita muna. Huwag munang pagkasabi sino may-ari nito, sino may-ari nun. Let us work together in this maritime, in this ecological project, the Chinese, the Filipino, the Chinese. Kumakanta na yata ang goodwill kasi the Ramon Magsaysay Awards, which I attended last 31 ng Setyembre, yun ang death ni September, August 31, yan ang death ni the great Ramon Magsaysay in a sabotaged airplane. Dalawa na ang awardees from China, from the People's Republic of China, dalawa ang binigyan ng RM Awards. That is a manifestation of goodwill. Remember ang RM narito, nasa Ramon Magsaysay Center, yan sa Rojas Boulevard. No? We gave it. That shows a beautiful gesture. At saka wala namang away ang mga Chinese at ang mga Filipino. We had been friends since time immemorial. Wala pang Kastila, kasama yun ng mga Arabo, yung mga early traders. In fact, ang mga Inchik ang madalas dito. Nung nakita nila yung Luzon, malaki yung island, sabi nila, Luzon. Then nakita nila yung Taal, then they gave it a name, the island that burns itself. Anong kinukuha ng Chinese sa atin? Honey. Mayaman na mayaman tayo sa honey. Honey, ang Pilipinas. We have been natural friends of the Chinese. Since when were we invaded by the Chinese? Natural ang ating friendship with the Chinese. Na nakuha lamang na ma-marginalize ang friendship because pumapasok, we own this. Sa amin ito, sa amin ito. That can wait. Kaya gusto ko yung attitude ni Mao Zedong. Sabi ni Mao Zedong kay Nixon, saka kay Kissinger, as for the ownership of Hong Kong, or ng Taiwan, we can wait. What is 100 years? Sabi ni Mao, in the life of China. China is the world's most ancient existing civilization. Ano sa kanilang 100 years? When they reckon their history from BC, before Christ. Yet, walang nasagot si Nixon, no? But, if you insist sovereignty is with you, or with them, not with us, then we will have to fight as Chinese. Pag pinilit mo yung sovereignty, the Chinese will fight you tooth and nail. Sa kanila, beyond compromise, beyond discussion ang sovereignty. Yung pala, di wag na muna. Parang sugat yan eh. Masakit yan, ayoko ng iodine. Di wag ko munang lagyan. Lagyan ko ng soft medicine muna. And then kunin ko yung goodwill niya until such time as we become natural friends. We have been natural friends. Alam ko, ang dami kong naging estudyante sa UST in 38 years. In every class, ang daming Chinese. Whether business or Liacom or puro Chinese. Popular ako dyan. Kaya kapag ang dami kong tikyaw. Ano tawag doon? Tikaw. Tiko. Yeah. They run after me. Professor, Happy Teacher's Day. Confucius, Happy Confucius Day. Tiko. At saka noon, madalas ako makumbida sa embassy. Ngayon, hindi na masyado. Doon, kausap ko mga Chinese diplomat. Hawak ko pa. Binati ko pa yung Chinese kasi Mandarin ang kanyang pamaypay. Ganyan, no? Mahilig din ako sa pamaypay ng Mandarin. Excellency, you look like a Mandarin. Thank you, Professor. Sa mga Chinese, pag pinuri mo, ibibigay sa'yo. Yeah! Parang hapon yan. So, nung pumunta na ako sa middle hall, because I was feasting on the Chinese laureate, lapit sa akin yung ambassador. I'm not kidding. Professor, I want you to have this. No, Excellency. No. No. We cannot. You need that. No, Professor. Please. No, no, no. Excellency, I cannot, I cannot. No. Let's ginanong ko. Ah. Wow! I really feel like a mandere. Do you have two of these? Unana po na po. No, I have only one, Professor. Thank you, Excellency. Diplomacy yun ah. Nakakuha ko ng Chinese abanico. Hindi yung abanicong binibili ninyo sa sidewalk. No, no, no. Talaga itong mandarinade. Marami akong pamaypay sa bahay. Nawawala lang, ano ha? Mandarinade na ganyan. Because bagay na bagay sa akin ang mandarinade. For between you and me, I emerged from the class of the mandarins. So nakuha yan sa diplomacy. Ang hirap sa atin, mayabang tayo. Dahil because we have the USA, matira ng matibay. Pag in-interview yung mga sundalo, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Ay, sabi ko, kanta lang yan, kumakanta ka lang. Sa tunay, hindi ka mamamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Walang na, hindi. By the way, nagpunta na ako in one of our excursion. Nagpunta na ako sa mga islands na yan, ano ha? Tumutupa kung ano, nasa nyo? Yan, yung batong tinutungtungan ko yan. That is part of the reef. Ito na ba yun, Taco? Ito na ba yun? Yan ang kasama sa reef. Oh, why should I shed my blood over a rock? Bato lang yun ah. Ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo, ba't ako mamamatay sa batong yun? Mamamatay ako para sa Pampanga. Yeah. Hindi sa isang batong ganun kaliit. Yun ang mga reef, pero mayaman yan sa natural resources. So, dadaanan natin sa, I call it, delicate diplomacy. Ayun naman ang wala sa atin eh. Delicate yun. Yun ang i-advise ko. If I had that long time for him to listen to me, I'm sure di ako makikita.
Professor, thank you very much for regaling us with those tales. I would like to, based on your long background as an educator, and since you have 38 years of teaching
38 years.
at the University of Santo Tomas.
1964. As soon as I graduated from UP, graduate ko sa UP, guest namin si Sotero Laurel, one of our guests sa commencement. In that year, 64, when I graduated, cum laude naman sa UP. So sabi niya, I wonder what it's like teaching. You want to teach, Professor? Yes. You can start tomorrow. Sabi ni Sotero Laurel, yung presidente ng Lyceum. So I started to teach May 1964. I have not stopped since then. Hindi pa ako tumigil. Malakas pa ako. Lahat ng mga kasama ko namatay na. Namatay na lahat. Kaya pa po, same day, marami akong binibigyan ng bulsa. Yung team namin, kaibigan ko yan. Namatay na rin. Yan, namamatay sila. But I am, one thing about me, I am everlasting. Hindi nyo alam. Nanonood na kayo ng Tales of the Vampire? I can live for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years. Anong kanta yun? I will love you for 1,000 years. That's me. I have lived for at least 1,000 years.
Okay, yes, sir. When you have noted that the Philippines has no independent foreign policy, when I think one of the main reasons for that is, of course, the people who are supposed to champion it have not really done their job in doing that. So, well, based on your experience, how much has been the impact of universities over time regarding the molding of people that should advocate for an independent foreign policy? Have our universities been quite deficient in instilling the right, values so that people should be able to somehow advance Philippine interests, or is this a function maybe of the background of these people? So, what is your insight, sir, regarding
Sa
the...
Korean, I am not so pessimistic naman. Sa university, as I've seen, uh, sa PUP, where I have been lecturing since the 60s, panahon pa ni Nesio Prudente, naipunla namin dyan ang nationalism, vigilant, militant nationalism, humane internationalism. Mga estudyante dyan, pag pinag-usapan na an independent foreign policy, very committed. Kasi very young pa eh. You know, the youth, they are young, they are reckless, they are adventurous, they're very brave. But when they become mature, of course, they adopt a much more soft, a much more umihina ang commitment because of family, etc. But as far as teaching is concerned, maraming professors nagbigay ng pawis, teaching nationalism, internationalism, love of country, independence, sovereignty. Teachers, I should know, class, we teach for very, very long hours, for very, very short pay, no? Long hours and short pay. Tapos babahain ka pa dyan sa UST. Inaabot kami ng baha. Teaching. Because we are committed. We are the teachers. And ang teacher, ang pangarap niya, to teach and always to teach. Though, many cases, mga estudyante niya are not teachable. Pero nasa professor yan eh. Nasa how you stimulate, how you make them stimulate their fibers and their nerve. I think I have succeeded. Sometimes too much. In Lyceum, marami akong estudyante na matay because sumama sa Kabataang Makabayan. Patapos nagpunta na sa Bicol, nagpunta na sa Nueva Ecija. One of my brightest sa Philippine government constantly asked questions, ano? Constantly, I answered him because ang mga tanong niya about this, about parity rights, about bases. And then, nung umalis akong Kwan, because I went, nag-aral ako abroad, pagbalik ko, I was told, he stopped studying, joined yung Los Baños, and they were caught in a hut, and they were machine gun. You see? Bata yun, like 18 or 17, no? Na minsan I feel guilty. Kami ni Jose Maria Sison, magkasama kami niyan eh. Joma Sison, myself, we were the best of friends sa UP. Si Joma, as you know, is the brilliant Jose Maria Sison. Ako in charge ng propaganda sa Kabataang Makabayan. Di ba yung mga kanta namin? Kami ang Kabataang Makabayan. Yan, dumugdong, nag-reverberate sa UP, nag-reverberate sa Lyceum, nag-reverberate sa other classes. Twice a year pa nga. But I do not view myself as having been pro-Americanized. I return infinitely more militantly a Filipino. Kasi you feel more nationalistic when you are abroad, when you are in Hawaii or San Francisco, you feel so committed. Isa lang ang bansa mo eh. Kaya kung babasahin niyo yung buhay ni Mabini, bakit namatay kaagad si Mabini? Nung dinala siya sa Guam, itinira siya sa mga may sakit ng leprosy, ng tuberculosis, no? Kaya anong leprosy? Nung pumalik siya, mga ilang buwan lamang namatay na siya ng cholera. Ang bilis, ano? Kababalik ni Mabini, mga ilang buwan lang yun, namatay na siya ng cholera. I read somewhere, nasama siya doon sa mga choleric, tinapo ng Amerikano roon, kasi he was a captured person. So, Professor, ang sagot ko sa inyo, nag-succeed naman. I have a lifetime. I don't believe I can devote another lifetime this committed, this long. But if I were to live again and to be committed again, I will not change a word of my belief. It will be more impassioned. It will be more vigorous and become more militant. Hindi ako nababawasan. I'm still the Filipino, expressing myself as an Asian, articulating an Asian nationalistic view in the centers of learning in the United States, in England, and elsewhere. In that sense, naniwala ako kay Jose Rizal. Wherever you are, it doesn't choose a place. If you are a Filipino, you are a Filipino first, a Filipino last, and a Filipino forever. I hope hindi mawala sa akin. Kasi hindi naman ako nagkaroon ng position. Ang position ko is teacher, 64. Teacher pa rin, 2014. And therefore, sobra na ito sa diamond years of my commitment to education. I don't believe nagbabago ako. I hope I do not change. You know? Kasi if I change, parang I have reduced to zero my life. Of course, I don't have that much money. But then I have it in my heart. And I see it in my students. Some of my students are devoted to me. Although I am not devoted to them. I'm cruel. Kung sigawan ko yan, kung insultuhin ko yan. But you see, when they do their work, you can see a commitment, a devotion. O baka natatakot lang sila sa grades. I don't believe so. A professor can only frighten so much. The rest of the time, the professor inspires. The rest of the time, the professor motivates. The professor makes you dream. And the professor makes you realize you can discover wonderful worlds in the mind. I believe in that. A teacher to all, a teacher until I die. When I die, it will be written on my epitaph. At last, Professor Lapuz has delivered his last lecture. Pero may kasunod dyan, in the last judgment, no? In continuation yan, when I meet Christ face to face. Of course, I will go to heaven. Did anyone doubt that? I will be left on the side of Christ. But what did you do, Professor Lapuz? Christ, you gave me that gift of God. You gave me a gift of speech. And you will agree, I have always used it to the greater glory of God. Alam ni Jesus Christ, yeah. And so, yun ang aking final test. Hindi ako nagkamali in my choice of profession. And my students continue to be devoted. And I thank all my students, by the way.
Having said that, thank you very much, Professor Lapuz.
Thank you very much, Professor Jose David Lapuz, members of the panel. We will now proceed with the awarding of the Certificate of Appreciation. Professor Ederson D.T. Tapia and Professor Popeo Adams.
Let me read first the citation. So, from University of Makati, College of Governance and Public Policy, Pimentel Center for Local Governance, Department of Public Administration, and Master in Public Administration Student Society. We award this Certificate of Appreciation to Professor Jose David Lapuz, Professor of International Politics, Comparative Methodology in Foreign Affairs, Politics of Development, and on the life, works, and writings of Dr. Jose Rizal, for his unselfish contribution in the academic community, for presenting his generous ideas and expertise on the governance, administration, direction, public ordering, and decision-making of the foreign affairs and relations of the Philippines. Given this 10th of September 2014, here at the HPSB 507, signed Professor Ederson de Lustrino Tapia, Dean, College of Governance and Public Policy, Dr. Delisa G. Browner, Vice President for Academic Affairs, and Dr. Raimundo P. Arcega, Executive Vice President, University of Makati.
Thank you. Can I just say a sentence? Dean Tapia, Dr. Browner, Dr. Arcega, thank you for this diploma. This must be the 18th diploma that I have received, that it will have a place in my museum, even as it has a place, I'm not kidding, I have a museum at bibliothèque. And also, may I say, I hope and I pray I will always live up to the high expectations of this diploma. Thank you, sirs. Thank you for this diploma.
Professor Fabio Adamus II will now deliver the closing remarks.
In behalf of the University of Makati College of Governance and Public Policy, together with the Department of Political Science, Department of Public Administration, we would like to give our thanks to our guest speaker, Professor Jose David Lapuz, and of course all of the attendees today from the different colleges, different departments, and also our faculty and our guests from other universities, of course, from PUP. We would like to welcome you here in the university, and at the same time, we are looking forward to another fruitful event with you.